All right. I'll make sure to hand deliver you by foot.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. There's good people on all podcasts, folks, but especially right here at your favorite podcast, Boys Bible Study. As usual, I'm Ash. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Scott
and Julian.
This is a very exciting episode because we have a longtime friend of ours on for his first Boys Bible Study appearance. This is a friend of ours who is working on his first feature film, which we're going to ask him about. He's also a very accomplished writer, published many novels in his career. This is our very good friend, Brian Kamerer, joining us for the first time. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You were a good Christian boy yourself.
I was.
Many a moon ago.
I was, up until the point of a good Christian young man.
Yeah. Same.
Even.
Did you get confirmed?
Yes, I did. I think I played piano at my confirmation.
Wow.
Whoa, I had no idea this about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was into it. Big time.
Yeah, Brian and I have talked about this. Conversations that you're not privy to as
Yeah,
someone who doesn't believe in the New
not.
Testament.
Hey,
That's
I was
like-
confirmed.
That's why I'm here.
Was
I'm
I?
here. You were confirmed?
Yeah, you get confirmed when you're Jewish at like 17 or something.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought
Yeah.
the bar mitzvah was the extent of it, but there's another sort of like,
I don't know if it's like a reform thing or what. Somebody can write. It's look. I'm not the expert on this.
I'm not the,
is that the last
that's fine.
thing? When you're 17, was that the last thing?
Yeah. Then there was like graduating, quote unquote, graduating Sunday school. I think these were. Part of me thinks these were like arbitrary landmarks to keep you going to temple.
Yeah.
For instance, having Sunday school was kind of weird, like
Right.
going to school at the temple at the same time that everybody was going to church.
Right.
It felt like all things to just sort of like keep us invested in the temple
Yeah, sure.
and like
Totally.
sort of like make us feel like less like the other by doing
Right.
it sort of parallel with Christians.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was there, like, when I was like a teenager, we were doing like, we'd go to like Sunday school, church, and then there would be like a youth group night as well. But it was like fun, you know, because it was like all my friends.
Yeah.
And then I remember like around like when I was like 16 or something, like we got like a new guy doing the youth group thing.
Yeah.
And he was like he was like somebody who'd like be making one of these movies, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like way too into it. And like we used to call it God stuff when they would make us do like
Yeah. They're
prayer
gonna make us
kind
do
of
God
stuff, you know?
Right.
And because we just wanted to be like playing like dodgeball and skateboarding,
Of course.
stuff. And then he started showing up at our high school.
Ooh.
So it was like we had to like avoid him, you know, because you couldn't get caught at high school talking to some like youth group pastor.
Yeah, you really don't want that.
It like totally turned me away from belief in God. Like,
not
like better start reading some like
That's
Kurt
so
Vonnegut
funny.
or something. Like, gotta get this out of my head.
I can't even pretend like I'm going to get pussy if I'm talking to you.
Oh, that's.
I mean, I'm not going to get it anyway, but I can't even like pretend like it's a possibility for me if I'm talking to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we're actually showing Brian a film today by one of our favorite families. If you've been a devoted listener to the show, you will have quite a familiarity. But we're coming with some hot new information this time. We got a hot scoop about the Wrights that's going to change our entire course of appreciation for them. Before we get to hear Brian's first impressions of a Wright family film, Brian, you have a book coming out soon, right?
Oh, okay.
What's your next project?
Okay,
You're a man of
here's
many
the
projects.
deal. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm here because I do a Patreon where I write novels and then I read them into a microphone, and you can listen to them a few chapters at a time that I post every week. I also sometimes write letters to celebrities. It's just basically a place for me to write stuff and then record it. Sometimes it's fiction, sometimes it's essays. It's that sort of a thing. So I just finished posting my first novel on the Patreon. It's called Man vs. Crow. It's about climate change and gun violence.
Yeah.
But it's funny. And that's why I'm here, other than to live that great Christian shame of right after I go on a podcast and regret everything I said.
Yeah, it's a lot like those scenes in Christian movies where someone has sex and they're crying the next morning.
Yeah.
It's very much like that every time we hit the stop button on the records. I personally, Ash, am a proud Books by Brian patron.
Yes.
What's the URL of that thing? I mean, we'll link it in the description.
Yeah, just link it. I forget. It's just like numbers.
Okay, I'll link it. Also, you have a film coming out soon that we're all very excited about. We're all involved with. In some way.
I made a film.
Brian's first feature.
Wrote and directed it. The glorious Nate Faustine is the lead actor in it.
Former Boys Bible Study guest.
Boys Bible Study guest, I'm sure. Loose Lips podcast.
Our own Julian is in it.
Julian
Julian actually
absolutely in it.
I made some music for it.
Ash made some music for it.
And yeah, I mean, we as a podcast, we focus on Christian film, but what we're really about is DIY and outsider and low budget film. And so it's a pleasure to, I think more and more, people should not be afraid to just like make their own movie because like the studio system, not like I'm an expert, but the studio system seems like beyond repair at this point.
Yeah.
So just make your own movie.
Yeah, just do it.
It's
honestly,
not that it's easy, but still.
It's like movies like this that, I mean, Scott and I were doing Everything Is Terrible for a long time and whatever, like watched a lot of movies like this kind of thing. And there's a certain point where I really was just feeling like, it didn't hit me as hard anymore that like they're like bad, which often they are, but just that somebody did it.
I know.
That they just made the movie and they just did it. And like clearly they don't even have much of an idea of how movies are like traditionally made. They just went ahead and did it and wrote it and shot every shot. And it was just kind of that feeling of like, for a long time of just like, geez, if they can do this, then I could do it, right?
Yes.
And it's like, and I think a lot of times people's shame gets in the way. This 100%. Idea of like, well, I don't want it to be as bad as these movies are or whatever. Like, I only want to make a good movie. And it's like, well, you got to make these kind of movies first.
Yeah, you do. That's such a good point. I mean, I've talked frequently as a film fan. I think this is part of growing up as like a true film fan is you eventually get to a point where you're like, you see any movie and you're like, wow, they made that.
Yeah.
Great job. That's like every movie to me gets a gold star at this point. Like literally everyone gets a participation trophy if you've made a feature film. Like, and I hope that comes across on Boys Bible Study. It's like, yeah, I know some of these people are literally insane, but like I think we make it very clear that we're like legitimately proud of all of these psychos for being able to like make their movie because that's something that like 99% of people will never be capable of doing. So good for them.
Absolutely.
And now you are in the 1% of elite people who finished a feature film or are about to finish a feature film. So that's very exciting.
I could join this family.
You sure could. So Brian is here with us today. We are talking about one of our favorite finds in Christian film. As I said, we are not going to completely reintroduce them because we've done several of their films, including but not limited to The Exorcism in Amarillo, Halloween CANDYMARE.
Whoa.
Halloween Hero.
Oh,
Christmas
Halloween Hero,
Zombies.
let's not forget. Christmas Zombies. These are one of, I would estimate they've made 20 features.
Wow.
This film, this family, the Wrights. They've lived in many places. They seem to be most recently settled in Maine.
Question. Was it always this husband and wife?
Yes.
As the like editors, producers, right? Okay.
Correct. And
I wondered if one of them married into it but
we don't fully know, if they had, partners before this, but as long as we've been familiar with their work, Ashley and David Owen Wright, Ashley Hayes Wright, they have been the power couple of backyard Christian films. Their three daughters, Scout, Jaina, and
Cadence.
They have these young women have in some of the films they actually write.
Okay.
Halloween Hero was written by, I want to say Cadence when she was 11. That was one of the first ones we ever watched. and it's just amazing. It's
And
great to let an 11-year-old write a movie. They do awesome jobs.
And they're only cast in this movie, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
No
except-
outside of the family.
There's one woman.
Yeah,
that
nobody
was.
outside of the family, but one woman who is outside of our realm of familiarity. And it
Okay.
seems like, just based on her name, Maggie Hayes, that she was probably Ashley Hayes Wright's mom.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't even
assumed
put that
she
together.
was.
I didn't
And
even put
she
that
was
together.
Australian, right?
She might have been doing a voice.
I think she was doing a voice.
I thought it was just a bad British accent.
I thought she was
Yeah.
Australian doing a British accent.
I think she was doing a voice. Now,
I
why
think she was
why
doing-
would there be a British nurse in the Confederate South for some
Well, she
reason?
says like,
Oh,
She's
right.
going
I
back to
says, well,
England.
I can't take the dog back to England.
Oh,
And I
right.
said, wait a second, you're clearly Australian. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, I see what they were doing.
Yeah.
Australia was not yet a country.
that
You
are
are
really doing you're doing the work for them.
I'm telling you, she is
Wow.
Australian. She was doing an English accent.
It sounds good to me. I will certainly take it.
I swear by that.
The film we watched this week, as you can see from the title of this episode, a 2022 Wright family film, which is pretty recent. One of their newer ones that came out. This is called Civil War Saints. Finally, the Wrights have covered. They've done films about Bigfoot. They've done films about Halloween. They've done films. We should have shown you that one, honestly.
That's cool.
Yeah. Finally, it's like every episode we talk about them. We're like, when are they going to cover the Confederacy?
Yeah.
Finally, with
And
Civil
they-
War Saints.
I'm not gonna lie, this one, I think it's just compared to their previous films, but they're really learning how to make a movie.
Yeah, they're getting the craft down.
Yeah.
This was
It-
actually like watchable from an aesthetic standpoint. I
Yes.
feel like
It's because you love all American period piece movies.
that
You
is
are
true.
biased.
Yeah, yeah.
So jumping right into it, unless you want to get to the controversy.
I actually do kind of
Yeah.
want to lead with the controversy just because I think that'll be fun for everyone. But
I'm surprised we have new information.
I'm
I
excited
know.
to hear about it.
I know.
So.
But before the first question I wanted to ask you, Brian, before we do that, is just like, this is kind of general, but just like first impressions of the Wright family. Like, what were your thoughts beholding them for the first time? Like, can you remember like what your initial thoughts were? We understand that you don't know much about them, but
Right. I don't know much about them. At first, I thought they must be an Australian family. And then everyone else didn't have an accent.
right.
And I was like, okay, I don't understand what's happening. Yeah, to me, they're not a dynasty. They are just the characters in the movie. So like I didn't realize they were all related right off the bat. Do they always look like that, or did they?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. They look to me like somebody who would be standing outside of a military funeral with like a God hates F slur sign.
Sure.
That's like just facial structure.
Yeah, their physiognomy, or however you say that, is they sort of have
Yeah.
a Westboro Baptist
Yeah.
physiognomy there.
And maybe that's unfair because the movie did not come across as like hateful or whatever. I just mean they looked like Christians.
right.
That's what
Yes.
they look like to me.
Well, they sure are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are a very dedicated Christian family. They were making films. They make like at least 5 films a year, and they've been doing this since like 2018. They're all on YouTube. It's pretty remarkable how prolific they are. We've developed the theory, which I'm pretty sure we confirm this is true, is that the girls are homeschooled, and that seems like a big homeschool activity that the family does is to
Yeah.
make Christian films.
Mm-hmm.
Random things
So
we've learned
cool.
about them. They're allowed to watch 1 movie a week, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
At least that was true at one point. I'm kind of blanking on that info.
That seems like not enough. I mean, if that's your thing, I feel like you should watch at least 2.
Yeah. It's 1 movie a week, and it's like Ashley's choice,
yeah.
Ashley's the mom.
the mom.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they do it to protect the kids from mainstream cinema, but then also
You think it's
The
one Christian movie, or just
I
are
don't
they
really know
watching
what
like
it
Scarface
is.
one week and then
well, the subject matter of their movies is like oftentimes way too intense for children, especially when their kids were like 60-year-olds.
yeah.
So I'm very, very curious about.
I mean,
How their
in
choices.
Christmas Zombies, they reference many secular films. They are really having fun with that one.
Yeah.
They reference like Die Hard. There's like direct references to Die Hard. So it's clear that at least the adult Wrights, it's not that they've only watched Christian movies their whole life.
Right.
They must really like secular entertainment.
You could tell that from this one. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it really almost felt like they were just kind of almost trying to fit the Jesus talk in. I only clocked maybe 3 actual conversations about Jesus
Yeah.
and stuff. Mostly, this was a story about a dog.
Yes,
and a
it
dude,
was. And also, I want to say, when we were talking about doing this film, I know, Brian, you were like, this film looks cool. There's going to be a dog in it. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's see if there's actually going to be the dog in the movie, because I've never seen a St. Bernard in their movies.
Right.
I know the St. Bernard is kind of front and center on the poster, but I was like,
Yeah.
that could be like a stock photo. Really not sure about that. I'll jump right out and say it was a very well-trained dog in this movie.
Yeah.
I literally don't
Yes.
know how
Yeah.
they pulled that off.
Good dog. Is this a newer of their movies?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and say
2022.
it right now. That dog's going to be in every single movie coming
Yeah,
up.
they bet it should
Every
be.
single
That dog was a star.
film. That is,
Yeah.
That dog was a star. Before we get too far in the film, this is a bomb drop for us. This is going to be a bomb drop for our regular listeners who've listened to anywhere between 1 and 4 full podcast episodes we've already done about this family, whom we love so much. We've shouted out this new friend of ours several times, but I'm going to have to shout once again out to our Letterboxd friend Wormy, because we started following each other on social media and corresponding. And Scott and Wormy and I, and Wormy sent me a message that I immediately, in all caps, passed on to Scott and Julian in the Boys Bible Study chat, because Wormy found a local news article from 2018. La Harpe police chief arrested. March 21, 2018. I'll try to summarize this as best I can. Allen County Sheriff says the La Harpe police chief is in custody over a theft charge from Texas. Authorities arrested Police Chief Ashley Wright Tuesday morning along with her husband David, who has a warrant out of Texas, where David was a former police chief. Sheriff Murphy says Chief Ashley Wright's arrest was because she refused to let deputies enter their home to execute the warrant against her husband. David ran from the home, but was taken into custody outside. It goes on. The bombs don't stop. The couple lives in the old La Harpe Methodist Episcopal Church, where David serves as the pastor. Sheriff Murphy also says David faces a local charge of impersonating an officer for reportedly acting on his wife's behalf in La Harpe, as well as the theft charges from Texas. He was dismissed from being the police chief in rural Texas in 2016. His firing came in 2015 for improper investigation involving a boy assaulting his daughter in school. So I think this means to say that David went beyond his bounds as a police officer to investigate an assault against his own daughter. According to documents, David refused to turn in his badge and identification that led to the theft charge. Blah, blah, blah. Before moving to La Harpe 6 weeks ago, the Wrights lived off the grid, in quotations, in rural Montana. After about 2 years, the couple felt God wanted them to lead a church. They explored options on the East Coast, and they were on the way to Pennsylvania when their SUV blew a head gasket. While stranded in a small town in Wisconsin, they saw an online listing for a church for sale. So this article leads us to a couple things. One, the Wrights were, in this period of the mid to late 2010s, they were sort of nomadically roaming across the United States looking for a church because they had a calling to lead a church. They literally bought their own church.
And they were on the run.
potentially from a
shamed?
warrant.
Okay.
Potentially because, so if I'm doing the math right, David's outstanding warrant was from Texas in 2016, which had to do with theft. And this was after he was dismissed as a police chief because he overstepped his bounds in investigation. Wow. Ashley then became a police chief in La Harpe after David bought a church. The family was living at the church. Both families were now former, disgraced police chiefs. David was.
What are the odds?
We read.
Chiefs.
We watched a video which we might put in. So there's a lot to unpack here, right? So we watched a local news video.
I've read this multiple times. I still do not understand
this.
this.
Be like a regular police guy before you get to be chief.
Well, also, we'll put the audio clip
Why is this in
but-
Kansas?
The La Harpe City Council last night met to discuss the future of the city's police chief after she and her husband were arrested. Now, this incident happened on Tuesday in La Harpe, which is near Iola. Authorities arrested La Harpe Police Chief Ashley Wright, along with her husband David, who is a warrant out of rural, R-U-L-E, Texas, where David was a former police chief. Allen County Sheriff Brian Murphy says Chief Wright's arrest was because she refused to let deputies enter their home to execute the warrant against her husband. David Wright serves as the pastor of a church where his family also lives. Wright ran from the church but was later taken into custody outside. David also faces a local charge of impersonating an officer for reportedly acting on his wife's behalf in La Harpe, as well as the theft charge from Texas. Now, one resident who doesn't want to be identified says she noticed odd things about David and says she personally saw him driving a La Harpe police vehicle.
He said when he was in Texas, he used to take on the mafia.
Why is this in the Iona Register?
That's a really good point. There's going to be more to investigate. I actually paid $4 to subscribe to the Iola Register to look at more articles about her.
Wow.
So, we're going to get that $4 worth here.
Yes, please.
You can only cancel the membership by calling or emailing them directly. So I'm going to have to do that soon.
And you got to put in your time as police chief.
I have to turn in my badge.
Yes, you got to call and ask them for any other info they have on this situation or on the family in general.
Also, we watched a local news report that was linked to Facebook where basically says the same thing, but little things we get picked up on. The two facts that I can remember, you can fill this in, Scott, are one, that David used to just drive Ashley's police car around and also be a police chief on her behalf because he used to be one. And two, that he apparently told one of his church members that he would do battle with the mafia.
Wow. I believe it.
So a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So he basically made her become police chief so he could continue acting as police chief. Do you think that was the thing?
That's a
I don't think
that's
so.
a possibility.
that is not how it works,
I could,
though.
Yeah,
Well, I know.
I could see them thinking
this is from a rational person's. I have no
I think
aspirations
it's more
to be.
She was like, I could do that.
Yeah,
And he was like, that's right. Runs in the
That's true,
right.
yeah.
That's right, baby. What were you going to say, Scott?
I could see them being okay, we have a union under God. We are one flesh. This job is the same to us. I'm in charge, so you're in charge. I wouldn't be surprised if when he was a police chief, she was doing the same thing.
Oh yeah,
Right. Can you just be a police chief? That's
No,
what I want to know.
absolutely not.
I feel like I could go somewhere and be a police chief.
Is
if I
it
really
like an
wanted to be.
elected
I mean, they're
position?
going to places with they live in places with less than 5,000 people.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like you just have to go to a town hall meeting and say I'm the police chief.
Yeah, I have
or whatever.
experience being a police chief in some other place. I want to be the police chief. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, okay.
I mean, they are ambitious and they work well together.
Yes.
It's true.
These guys kind of rule.
I know.
Yes.
That's the thing about them is what comes across to me greatly from their work is that they, in my opinion, they really respect each other and work well together.
Clearly.
It seems like they really are on the same team.
Yeah.
Do you remember in The Badge, the Bible and Bigfoot, the huge plot line about the police chief getting no funding and
Yeah.
people refusing to
They were
pay
like-
money to track down Bigfoot?
Yeah.
I would love to see what their actual run as police chief was
Right.
like.
I would be very curious.
Do you think they were in a position where they couldn't find Bigfoot because they were underfunded?
I feel like yeah, probably.
Gosh, I want to.
There was the thing in the other movie where it was like based on true events. I was trying to explain this the other day, Ash, when we were hanging out, about how like they had to flee Texas because of a demonic
demonic possession.
Demonic possession.
Yeah. Because
like, I wonder if that's sort of like
Right.
oh, the devil cast us out of Texas because
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
They were on the run from the devil's
Yeah.
warrants.
Yeah.
Just some other bits about them. I'm gonna again get my $4 worth. Let's be honest, probably $8 because I'm gonna forget to cancel this until a couple weeks from now. From January 17th, 2018. This is about 6 months before it all went down. God is in Kansas. Couple follows calling to La Harpe Church. Ashley and David Wrights believe that God wanted them to start a church, led them to invest all their money into an abandoned church in La Harpe. We don't have a dime, but we're very wealthy in spirit, David said. We have nothing. We are nobody. It's all God. He sent us here to revive the area. We know he's going to provide. The couple met through their jobs in law enforcement. They decided to leave their jobs and devote their time to service in God. They decided to leave their jobs is a phrase I think is doing a lot of work here.
Sure.
I have decided to leave my job after they decided to serve me with arrest papers.
Yeah.
The classic, you can't arrest me, I quit.
Yeah.
Since the purchase, the couple have said they discovered the church needs significantly more work than they initially assumed. Okay.
They bought a lemon.
Yeah.
I'd love to make a documentary about these two, but like
they would do it.
Well, their prowess in filmmaking, I feel like they just railroad me.
That's probably
They
true.
take over the.
I'm curious about this article. La Harpe postpones decision about police dog. La Harpe City Council members tabled a decision on acquiring a dog capable of detecting illegal drugs. They encouraged Ashley Wright, the city's new police chief, to complete her law enforcement training first and to reach out to nearby communities to see if they'd be interested in sharing the cost to acquire such a dog. Canine units typically cost in excess of $25,000. Wright approached the council earlier this month, noting grant opportunities that would pare the city's cost to about $12,000 if the city agreed to acquire the dog. She also said she would forego any salary increase if she were to obtain the dog. Council agreed to postpone the decision.
She was elected police chief with no training.
And she, in her soft
she said
voice,
she would learn on the job.
And she, in her soft voice, like went to the council and was like, "I think we need to buy a drug sniffing police dog." And they were like, "Okay, it's going to cost like $25,000, and you have not trained as a police officer yet."
That's on them.
Yeah. Also, like,
She's right.
Yeah, she's right.
I'll just give her a chance. I mean, this was like
They did. They already gave her a chance. Now they need to double down on that.
So that was pretty much a month and a week after they reported that they bought the church. So you're on the job for a month, and you're like, "We need a drug sniffing dog."
And they just
Wow.
moved there.
Yeah, she had just moved there like a month before this.
This also
then-
remember the big thing in the Bigfoot movie about how the sheriff was like a complete idiot and got murdered by Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Then, about another month later, actually about 3 weeks later, after the petition about the police dog, La Harpe police chief arrested. Ashley Wright and her husband David were taken into custody this morning by sheriff's deputies, stemming from an arrest warrant for David out of rural Texas. Blah, blah, blah. So they buy a church. They ask for a police dog. They get arrested. This all happens in the first quarter of 2018.
Wow. That's amazing. So, like, this is just the way
God
these
damn.
people operate. And again, this is just how geniuses operate.
Yes.
Like, if they were born in a different place, they would be like tech billionaires right now.
Yes.
Because, like, what they do is they're like, I don't care that I don't have, I should run this town. I should be chief.
Yes.
And they're like, you're not even a police officer. And they're like, I need a drug sniffing dog. And they're like, but like, wait, hold on. You're technically not a police officer. I can't tell you that enough. I run the church around here. Wait, what? The church? I thought you were the police officer. I'm going to make 17 movies.
Yes. Yes.
That's how it works. That's how you do things.
The thing is that, first of all, I completely agree with you, Brian, because the thing is, it's so easy to, laugh at someone like this, as we are doing. But you're right. I mean, all a genius is someone who thinks as insane as that, but then their idea works.
Yeah.
Like that the only difference between a genius and an insane person is whether or not their idea works or not.
Totally.
So I think that that's something we have to keep in mind. Like it's very easy for us, in the general sense of the term, we in the human race, for us closed-minded people to be like, come on, know your role. You haven't even had police officer training yet. But it's like, she got to be the police chief.
Yeah.
Like, how many doors have you not knocked on yourself because you thought, oh, there's no way I could or should or deserve to do this?
Totally.
You didn't knock on that fucking door. Ashley Wright did.
Right.
You're going to be mad at her? You're going to silence her?
Well, like going back to the movie, early on, they make this distinction between she hands him some food and she goes, this is food for your stomach. And then she hands him a Bible and it's like, this is food for your soul.
Food for your stomach and food for your soul.
Right.
And I think they just do that constantly, where they're just like, I may not be a human police officer, but I'm God's police officer.
Right.
Like, I may not, have the legal necessities to be that police officer, but I have the godly necessities.
And they have gravitas. Like, they're American movie stars. Like, in that first article I read where they joined the church, the quote from David is like very compelling. He's like, we are nothing. We have nothing. We have God. God will provide. Like, he's like, I mean, they probably came into town and people were like, whoa, like these people are awesome.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
I mean, they know what they need.
They do.
Yes. And
It's
honestly,
not much.
I'd say they're justified in the canine unit demand because this dog they have in Civil War Saint is so well trained, as we pointed out from the
Yes,
get-go.
right.
Yes.
The dog Wilhelmina is played by Lily.
Right.
Yes. Civil War Saints, unique Wright family film because it does star a beautiful St. Bernard puppy who, was trained exceptionally well. One of my favorite parts about the film is right at the end when they put up that title card that says, Lily wasn't hurt during the film. In fact, she liked filming so much that she wanted to do it every day. Not all saints are human.
Right.
Yep.
And then they have a nice little montage after the post-credits montage. They have a montage that's like where the dog is clearly like using a gun as a stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty wild.
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They look like real guns.
They're
definitely.
training it to shoot. That's how good of a canine unit
Yeah.
Yeah.
boss Ashley was going to be. She's going to train that dog to use a gun within like a week.
Do not reach for the service dog service weapon.
So is a saint? I thought a saint was like a Catholic thing.
Yes. I mean,
Are they Catholic?
Not all
is a
saints.
dog.
no, definitely not.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Right.
No,
as a
not all
Protestant.
saints are human.
Yeah.
Thing seems weird to acknowledge.
Yeah,
I
it's just
mean-
a play. It's just a play on Saint Bernard.
No, I'm not going to let this go.
Well, the thing is, we Protestants,
I'm going to get into a logical argument with the two people who
Don't mess with these
impersonated police officers. And,
so we in the like the Protestants, especially like the Episcopals and the Lutherans and all those people, like there are saints, like we'll be like the gospel according to St. Peter. But the thing is that we don't do all the Catholic, like, the Catholics, again, because they love fucking bureaucracy. Like, you can be a saint, you have to go through all these like different phases and like be like, appointed. And like, blah, blah, blah.
we've encouraged Peter to complete his saint training.
Yeah, before we give him a title change. Before we give him a drug-sniffing seraphim to man the gates of heaven to make sure no contraband is smuggled through. Yeah. We say, we even say the Apostles' Creed, which is like modified. Lutherans say the Apostles' Creed, which is like modified from Catholic stuff. We even say we believe in the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, and the life everlasting. So it's like saints are there, but we're not like, oh, this person is like the saint of gardens or whatever. Like, let's pray to this person because we pray directly to God, motherfucker. We don't need anyone to go through us.
No middleman.
Right.
No, we don't need a middleman. That costs extra. So, I literally didn't put together the Saint Bernard thing until the play on the fact that it's a Civil War Saint Bernard.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not put that together
Wow.
until just now.
This thing's got levels.
Yes.
This thing's got levels.
It really does. Lily was a fantastic addition to the Wright family cast. Brian, you got to observe the dynamic between husband and wife. David always speaks in his voice where he goes like, did I write?
Yeah.
Right. I think you need courage to be a soldier.
Yep.
That's like how he talks. And then,
He always talks like that?
Yes.
He
Always.
sounds like a Civil War guy.
There's
Yes.
good men on both sides. He's got Sling Blade vibes.
A little bit.
It's funny when you can like kind of hear his voice singing songs. I think.
yeah, they both sing, Brian. They're singing a lot of
Oh.
the songs on the soundtrack. They have
Oh, those
very
are
nice
good
voices.
tunes.
Yeah,
Good tunes.
it's
have-
funny,
Yeah.
but you can like
Very nice
still
voices.
pick up on his like his vocal tics and his accent a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it's really funny when he does like voiceover in their trailers and stuff.
Right.
Because he like tries to sound real distinguished.
Right.
And I'm sure you noticed too, Brian, in this feature, which is a thing that happens in a lot of their features. They do voiceover over probably themselves facing away from the camera in different costumes so as to appear
Yes.
as more than
Yeah.
they are.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there was definitely, the two bad guys, the two long-haired freaks.
The wizards.
Yeah.
The wizards of the
In my
wood.
notes, I said, Moses just pulled a gun on her.
That was very funny. And I love these masks, the trash humpers masks that they keep reusing in all of their movies.
Yes, this is not the
Yeah.
first
Cool.
time we've seen people wearing trash humpers masks in Wright family films. This is a motif.
Yeah, whenever they need like Ashley or their kids to play men or like villains, they always put them in this mask and have David do the voice.
Okay.
Yes.
It was
And
big in Halloween Hero.
Halloween Hero, very much.
Where you might expect a masked person
That was
in a Halloween.
Extremely confusing in that movie because it was not supposed to be
but it
someone
wasn't
in a
supposed to-
mask.
Right. It was confusing in this movie. It took me a while to just be like,
Yeah.
oh, they are wearing masks. Like,
Fortunately, David did not use the same vocal affect that he did in Halloween Hero,
Yes.
which is extremely problematic.
Yeah, he's basically doing like black voice. It's very strange.
oh, sure.
The only real conflict in Civil War Saint was that there were these two basically they seemed like
Deserters?
wizards. Yeah, deserters who basically looked like wizards. We never saw them face on because
yeah,
they were
I would like to talk about that conflict.
please.
So the kid runs away.
Right.
And gets captured immediately by Moses, one long-haired freak.
Right.
So first of all, it's just that one the first time.
Yeah.
And then David goes, no, John. His name's John.
In the movie.
Yeah.
Sure.
John goes and beats up the guy and then just leaves him there. And then he comes back again with a buddy this time and again kidnaps them. And again, they beat him up and they just leave him there.
This
Yeah.
is a recurring theme in all their movies and makes me really, really question, their competence when it comes to their
Yeah.
police work.
Oh,
Considering
absolutely.
a recurring theme in these movies is to, in this one, beat up somebody who is attempting murder or kidnapping and then just leave them
Well, maybe
unrestrained or just free to do their own thing.
Maybe it
also
speaks to their police work where they're not willing to take capital punishment into their own hand. Because
Right.
I am just like, John,
Yeah.
murder those fuckers.
more importantly, in this film and also in the Bigfoot movie, a huge plot point is David leaving his weapons completely unattended.
Sure.
Right. For any passerby to pick up and use against him.
Right. They struggled a little. Yeah. If I'm going to say anything about this movie where it struggled a bit was the kind of action logic, because then we get, so we already had those two conflicts, correct? And then after leaving the two long-haired freaks again knocked out in the woods, they go and hang out. And then you see the long-haired freaks stalking the family. And the long-haired freaks let out to the camera what their plan is. I wrote it down.
We're going to get that dog and bring him here. And then he'll have to come. He'll have to.
We will get that dog and bring it here. Then he'll have to come. He'll have to come. And then, so what I discerned from that was that the plan is that we will kidnap the dog and that will lure John, the warrior, to them. And then they will have a showdown with John.
Yeah.
Right. So what do? They walk over there. They knock John out cold, leave him there, grab the dog, go away. And then, of course, John comes with the girls. They have the worst fight I've ever seen. It just makes no sense. Like, what exactly is happening? It's the chaos of war. And I wrote down in my notes, these heroes deserve these villains. They are so bad at fighting.
Yeah, that was the worst fight choreography I've seen from them, unfortunately.
They've done good fight choreo before.
Yeah. Well, it had this. Okay, so it did have the sword fight scene.
Yes.
When he first meets the beautiful grave robber
with the Game of Thrones.
So he comes across his beautiful wife, who is a grave robber in this story, and he's not too mad that she's robbing graves. But she's kind of like defensive, you know.
I've had to be because of men like you.
What kind of man do you think I am?
Judgmental for one.
Kind of like, lay off me. I gotta do what I gotta do.
You're a feisty one, aren't you?
Yeah.
Go on.
Then she's got a sword and he's like, put that down before you hurt yourself or something. And she's like, try me. And then they have the best sword fight scene I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because it has my favorite shots in the whole film, which is a medium shot just of John's feet, just of his legs, like kind of like his thighs down. And he's doing the funniest little like dance back
shuffle.
and forth. It's like his sword footwork. And they cut to it like
awesome.
3 times.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. Okay, yeah, that fight sequence was pretty great.
That ruled.
So I think they do a little better with more modern action tropes, because like Christmas Zombies is a whole like Christmas comedy about like an evil elf who creates a horde of zombies to like get back at Santa because blah blah blah,
As you do.
as one does, yeah. And the couple plays many roles, but they additionally play like this gang of like secret agent, you know, like Bond hero types who have guns and get into gunfights with the zombies. And it's like, I mean, it's certainly not perfect, but like there's lots of complicated things going on with a green screen. I mean, certainly more complicated than just your average hobbyist would do. And
Yeah.
it does, I don't remember it too well, but to me, it did follow like a pretty decent fight logic, as in, you know, the camera will move and someone will be in like the relative position where they probably should be.
Yeah.
Maybe it was not as strong in this movie for some reason. I don't barely remember, to be honest.
Yeah, it was just really the like that back and forth between just like the same plot move 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And then culminating with them just nearly murdering the guy they wanted to murder, and then just taking, it was just like
Well,
they what they confused was the chicken for the egg, because they wanted the guy and their plan was to get the dog. Then they got the guy, but we're like, well, we got to go through with the plan, and then they took the dog.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You bring up, the heroes and villains in this film.
Yeah.
But, imagine, so they had to make a Civil War movie, of course.
Yes.
But imagine, you can't make a Civil War movie and address the conflict of the entire Civil War, which is, of course, the Union versus the Confederacy.
Right.
In fact, they have to make several, remarks indicating that that's not really what's going on here. The war is over.
Yeah. He was a Union soldier.
He was a Confederate soldier.
No, but
he finds a Union soldier in the woods.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was the other way around.
Opposite?
He said he was going to buy a ticket back to New York.
Yet, okay, I agree with you. However, early on in the movie, so I don't know anything about like Civil War shit.
Yeah.
I'm sure their uniforms were like
I don't know the
somewhat accurate.
uniforms either.
I don't either. But early on in the movie,
blue is good and gray is bad.
So he was
Really?
he was
So
a
he
Union.
was a Union soldier?
He was a
Union
soldier.
soldier.
Okay, I'm confused.
Did you guys not pay attention at all?
No, hold on. Wait, I'm confused because
Wait a
early
minute.
on in the
Where's
movie,
the cutoff line for the Civil War? Like Virginia's the north,
Definitely
right?
New
Am I
York
wrong?
is north.
No, it's
Virginia's
not
the
that
South.
easy.
Wait, but early on in the movie, they're talking. I could swear they
Virginia
said that
is the
we
South.
surrendered. Doesn't he say that?
He says that?
I
No, he says, I said fall back, not retreat.
But there's a different scene earlier on. Maybe that
they're
was just
living
when
in
the
a
women,
world where the
maybe that was just when
South
the women
won the
were
Civil
talking.
War.
It was also just I couldn't understand a word he said for the first 10 minutes of the
Well,
movie.
that's very David.
He
That's very
pointed towards a gun and he said like "Rival the rival."
There's 2 rifles right there.
Okay, you're absolutely right that he was wearing a Union uniform.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I absolutely agree that he's supposed to be a Union soldier. I
Right.
apologize for the
Okay.
confusion.
But it's understandable because there was good guys on both sides.
There was good guys on both sides.
Exactly.
Insane.
What I was
That was
basing it
insane.
on was the fact that the kid that he finds, who he says you fight on the opposite side of me, his family is from Virginia. So in my head, I was
Yes.
thinking Virginia is part of the North because I am terrible at my U.S. history. But it is not.
This is blowing my mind right now.
What?
What that you
offense to
know the
anybody,
most,
but I
you
am
know the most
one-
plot details of one of our movies.
One of 4 people, only one of 4 people on this podcast right now knows that Union soldiers wore blue and Confederates wore gray.
I thought they were like
That is
red,
like-
but I was
shit.
thinking of the British. I was thinking of the British. I was thinking of their flags, which, let's be honest, very
Dude,
iconic.
I don't go to Ren Fair or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say Julian's absolutely right. I'm looking at a Confederate uniform right now. It is exactly like the way
you
that
can't
the boy
tell
was
in these
dressed.
pictures because they're all black and white.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, the truth is frequently not black and white. It's in shades of gray.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's true of the Civil War as well.
Sometimes you come across a soldier in the woods. It's not exactly who you think they are.
Correct.
Sometimes
There was
it's a little different than you might think.
There's a plot in this movie where Wright daughter Scout, she is a Confederate soldier. She's playing a young Confederate soldier who David Wright finds in the woods. Now, I knew that it was their daughter because I know that there's only Wright family members in the movie, and they only have daughters. So
Yes,
I intuitively knew that it was a young woman, but in my head, I was like, well, it makes sense that they could have her playing a young soldier. And like, in their world, that's not like, I didn't.
It was. She was so obviously like a young girl, not to sound too,
Sure.
unwoke.
Yeah, sure. I get it.
But it was just kind of, I mean, for them, it was
Right.
like so obviously like a young girl.
Yeah, very.
That I was like,
Right.
oh, maybe she is actually
A girl
a young
soldier,
boy
yeah.
because they're just like going with this so hard.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
as
was
somebody
thinking.
who didn't know their history of that it was only going to be all in the family.
Right.
Like I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I see exactly what they're gonna
yeah.
do with
right,
this.
yeah.
This is
Right.
in the conceit of the movie, this is a young girl who's pretending to be a boy for the sake of whatever to get through the war.
Yeah.
But then there was a moment where even with that, like just knowing that was coming, just the way they were playing it and like how they were making her like all scared and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And not talking and stuff. Like at one point she takes her gloves off and she has like long like nails that are done.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
missed that.
okay. And that was a moment where I was like, okay, is that a theatrical, like, is that like them being like, see, we're foreshadowing this a little bit, like showing that she is actually a girl? Or was that just the daughter just being like, I'm not cutting my nails because later I am going to be a girl.
It really could be any of those.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
They might have just literally forgot that for continuity's sake, and then they were just filming the movie because they make like 5 of these per year.
And I gotta say, no chomo, but it's very nice to see the Wright family daughters growing up.
I agree. They're becoming beautiful young women.
It's just cool to, I don't know, to be like, oh wow, I remember when you were knee high on a grasshopper.
Yeah. When we're invited to their family reunion, we'll say
I'm like,
that
damn, they really stuck with making like a movie every year for like the past 6 years. It's crazy.
I mean, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like making movies are fun. Just before we move off of that thing,
please,
where they finally find out that she is in fact a young girl, pretending to be a Union soldier or a Confederate soldier boy. And then she's revealed by the grave robber, who just sees it right away, just knows right away. But John, the guy, just has no fucking clue what is happening.
Right.
When he finds out, he just completely has like a fucking breakdown, and he says, I'm confused. I'm losing my mind.
That's a classic.
He seems
Wright-type
almost like
line.
hurt too that she would lie to him about it. He's like, why would you lie to me? And it's like, why would a soldier fighting on the opposite side of you, who's a young girl, lie to a grown man on the opposite side of war? I can't think of any reasons.
Yeah. On the losing side.
Yeah. I also, this seems like a small moment, but one of my favorite lines in the movie early on when he meets the, supposed young soldier, the soldier is like scared and doesn't talk. And David says, come on now, you need courage to be a soldier. But the war is already over at this point, and like theoretically, this person already was a soldier. I don't know why. That line just really struck me. It was like, well, this is a soldier.
Yeah.
I mean, we later find out it's not, but
I think,
don't know.
I think he was talking to himself because like he's still in the war. He's still having the flashbacks. He needs like MDMA therapy. Like he's talking to himself. He's like looking off into the distance and he's saying like, you got to be strong.
Well, you
gotta be fucking strong.
But you know what? There's actually something here. So I think that the more I think about it, Civil War Saint being a movie about a Civil War soldier who acknowledges that the war is over, but still is basically living his life in uniform as if the war is still going on.
Yeah.
I think this is actually a very apt metaphor for the first Wright movie we're watching, knowing that David was charged for impersonating a police officer. Because and maybe the Wrights, what this is the key to understanding them as genius outsider filmmakers in the realm of a Tommy Wiseau or a Neil Breen or any of the beloved, because they don't really know when the movie is over.
Right.
That's the thing about them. And that's what makes them such good filmmakers. That's why they keep diving in. 5 times a year or more, they're making a feature film. Like that's incredible. And why wouldn't they? The movie never ends for them. The movie started long before they ever picked up a digital camera for the first time.
Yes.
Like their life is a movie, And we need people like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To create our myths, y'all.
Yeah. They are always in the war.
Yes.
They are always stuck in the war. The content war, the Christian war for their soul.
Yes. And I think that drive is very important to understanding their characters.
The war against haters.
The war against terror, the war against haters, the war against drugs,
the war for the
not
cops
having drug
against the other
dogs.
cops.
Yes.
Yep.
The cops against the people who would defund the cops, so
Sure.
that you couldn't fight Bigfoot or do any of the things you wanted to do.
See, I thought the point of that movie, though, was that they could still fight Bigfoot without the police. And so ultimately, it was the correct decision to reallocate the money from the police to the fire department.
That is
Yeah.
that is a really good point. That's probably the biggest thing we learned from The Badge, the Bible, and Bigfoot, which we have not officially done for the show. We've just watched on our own.
Really?
But I don't believe we actually recorded an episode on that one. I think we just did that one for fun. I think we
just
worked
watched
off the
it
clock
for
for
fun.
that one. Don't tell the Podcasters Union, PU. Don't tell the PU about that.
They stink.
Yeah, they stink. In that movie, as we sort of hinted at earlier, the big plot of the movie is like, they defunded the police and sent all the money to the fire department. Now who's going to fight Bigfoot? But then they just do.
I love that, knowing that they were both acting as police chiefs in towns of less than like 5,000 people. And we're like, why are we giving money to the fire department? Can't you see we have to fight the mafia?
We need $25,000 for a drug sniffing dog.
Yeah.
Bitch, there's 25 people in your neighborhood. If one of them is making meth, you can probably tell just by looking at them.
And the
You'd
actual
be able to see the smoke from your porch.
Or you'd be fucking acting like you do.
When I lived in Humboldt or whatever, it was funny because it's actually the opposite in small towns where it was like, there were all the fucking fires up north, and in order to pass a thing for more money for the fire department, they had to throw the cops in there. So, in order to support the fire department, you had to give some money to the police.
Interesting.
Like a kickback for the mafia.
That's really funny.
Jeez.
Right.
Also in Humboldt, the one person who's not doing meth is like the person that everybody's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, the drug sniffing dog would go insane.
He'd just be spinning in circles.
That dog would not be sleeping.
No, not be as well behaved as our saint.
No.
Oh, speaking of the saint, there's something else in my notes that I wanted to talk about, which was at one point, John tries to get the dog to wear a hat, to wear his hat, and that shit is real.
Yeah.
Because I've never owned a dog, but I've lived with many, and I've tried so many times to get dogs to wear hats, and they never want to. They'll never do it, not even long enough to get a picture or anything.
No.
They hate that shit. So I felt for John in that case.
That scene could have been longer. I still would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Just seeing someone play with their dog, joyfully play with their dog. Ultimately,
the movie was only an hour 10. We could have totally had another 10 minutes of John trying and failing to put the hat on a dog.
Yeah, it was interesting. They really set it up. I mean, again, if I had to go into kind of a little bit of failings in the movie, which again, they did a lot of things right, I would have said you set this up as a movie about you and this dog, and then they really didn't do much with the relationship between the guy and the dog.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was immediately just the dog's here. I like the dog. And then a new character shows up, and then another character shows up, but it wasn't really
Also, you know what I'm just thinking of now? They obviously really liked the dog, but I did notice that the dog was frequently being offered to other characters. Everyone who had the dog was like, you know what? I'm going to give you the dog.
Yeah.
Everyone loved the dog, and the dog was the star, but also every character was so willing to just completely give the dog to someone else.
Right. And in fact, that's the end of the movie. They just he gives the dog to the girl, to Abigail.
Yeah.
Which was just, I'll tell you what. That was a twist. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I really zoned out the last 10 minutes. And so they had a fight in the train station because she flipped over some tables. She was like, Jesus and the tax collectors, and then she flips over somebody's
she
poker
didn't like
game
them
or
gambling
something.
in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Another thing that just takes on a whole new meaning, knowing that she acted
That she
as
is a
police
cop.
chief.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he's like, my my dad died, and so I got to go get his land. And she's like, you suck, I'm leaving. And then they leave. And I do not know how they came back together. I zoned out and suddenly they were like there.
Yeah.
Did I like what did you see like what happened? Did she go after him?
I got to be honest, I was taking an online IQ test for the sort of bottom half.
Did anybody see how they came back together?
Usually I'm really good at this. This is sort of my function on the podcast.
I was cooking lunch while that played.
Okay, normally this is my function on the podcast.
I forgot to turn the volume up on Tubi, so it was like I had the volume all the way up on my computer, but the volume down to like 20% on Tubi.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot of the dialogue.
You probably just thought
20
you
minutes.
couldn't understand what they were saying.
I was like, damn, this is a quiet movie.
Please,
yeah, tell me what happened.
Damn it. Okay, so they're at the train station.
Yes.
And John, finds out from the train station attendant, who also has a letter for him, I guess, that his dad is dead.
Yes.
Because he was going to visit his dad.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Right. Before that, when I wrote something down about that, was that he goes to the train station person. She sees him again, hasn't seen him in a while, and is like, "Oh, it's good to see you," or whatever. And she says, "You have a letter in your post box. Shall I fetch it for you?"
You've a letter in your post box. Shall I fetch it for you?
And
Yes.
in my mind, I was thinking, like, yeah, dummy, just get it's one letter. Like,
Yeah, NPC
you'll never
ass
see
dialogue.
this guy again. It's fucking old timey, like
Yeah.
the Civil War. Like, give him the letter.
He's gonna die of
You don't have
gout.
to ask, right? That's what I'm thinking.
The setup is gonna
Right.
die.
And he says that'll be fine. And then so she goes and gets the letter, comes back, and she's like, by the way, your dad's dead. And he's like, what? And then he says, I don't need to read that letter. And I'm like, what?
I remember that.
No wonder she was asking whether or not she should fetch it. He must have had a history of just like not reading the letters and making her go do that footwork of getting stuff. She's not gonna do anything with.
I did remember that part.
But
did
I don't
strike
know
me.
how that it's probably the first letter he's gotten in since the war started.
I mean, like, how many percent of people even knew how to write?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you get a letter. That's like
It might have been
that's a
from
special
Lincoln
occasion.
himself.
Yeah.
Earlier in the movie, too, he was writing a letter to his dad in that diary he had or whatever. Yeah, and I was wondering if that was like, remember that movie we covered, The Fourth Wise Men, where the guy was like
Yeah.
Right.
always writing letters back to his boss?
I think father.
From
was his
the middle
dad,
of the
yeah.
desert.
It was his father. Yeah.
No, it wasn't his father because he wasn't the one. He wasn't writing Martin Sheen's character wasn't writing letters.
Oh, yeah, of
He was
course, of
doing
course.
whatever
You're right.
the fuck
It was
he felt
his
the right thing to do.
slave, literally
Yeah.
his slave. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But it was that kind of scenario where it's like, are you going to drop these off in like at a tree? Like, where are you sending this letter from?
Yeah.
But
But then how did they get back together after they fight?
I think it just happened.
yeah, okay, yeah. So the thing was, while he's learning this very sad information, and she's like, "Oh, your property was about to get claimed. Good thing you're here now, because I guess if you don't claim your property in time, the government takes it back or some kind of bullshit like that."
Yes,
but then he goes back. Yeah, and he comes back to find that she has gotten into trouble for the few moments he's been away, and then he makes a comment about that,
I can't leave you alone for a second, can I?
and they have their chemistry immediately kicks in, and they're
okay.
an
So
item.
again, he saves her again. I got you.
Yeah, kind of. Well, he says that, and she's like, I can
was
handle
fine.
myself.
I told you I didn't need anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Her
right.
mugshot is so funny. When it's like, oh, the police chief was arrested, and she's just like wearing a T-shirt that says "need something."
oh,
She
yeah,
looks
that's a really
good. She
point.
actually looks good. That's a good
yeah.
mugshot. Like she actually.
I mean,
that's
she
the
looks
person
like
who
she
knows the
got,
camera.
like,
she's beautiful.
She knows
It's like
the camera.
public intoxic. It looks like somebody got arrested for like partying too late or something.
Yeah, it's just like a smirk,
like a noise complaint.
Not like I was pretending to be police chief.
yeah.
They are movie stars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they really are.
Well, okay, and that's another thing that I was wondering. Like now that you tell me that these guys they make so many movies and stuff.
yeah.
Like, do you know like what kind of numbers they're doing? I mean, obviously these are going straight to what? Like how are people seeing
YouTube
it?
and
They just throw 'em on
YouTube and Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on Amazon Prime, but like,
What's the?
no one's buying these probably.
There's a distribution company that they
Scott
use.
Well, they get on the Encourage TV channel, which it's hard to really say how distributed that is.
But they have the like, what is it, Bushwick distribution or something that there's a card that plays before all of their movies. And it seems to be a distributor that just takes whatever Christian movie you make and then puts them on Encourage TV. Oh, it's right there.
Bridgestone Multimedia Group.
Bridgestone Multimedia.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we
Yeah.
see them frequently. Don't really understand the business model here.
That one's always connected to Encourage TV in some way. Like if it is on Tubi,
Maybe
it's also on
Encourages.
Encourage TV if it has that for the most part. I think Encourage TV is curating. I think they are picking stuff that they believe in within their parameters. That's my
Do they
thought
like
as
watching these
an
movies?
active subscriber.
I mean, we like watching these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm on Bridgestone Media Group's
I kind of want to watch that
websites.
one. Kathy Lee Gifford, The Way.
Yeah, we'll
cool.
watch that. They're Christian / family friendly. I think they're basically like, I'm gonna sound so old. By that I mean 30 years old, 32 years old. But like, they're kind of like TuneCore. If anyone here was an indie musician in the mid to late 2000s, you might remember TuneCore. I feel it's basically you would send your music there and they would distribute it on iTunes and whatever. I feel that Bridgestone is like that for family-friendly Christian movies.
Yeah.
They might curate some, but it kind of seems like you just sort of like pay a blanket fee and like send them they do distribution, but what that basically means is they just like handle the work of putting that on everything. And it says Encourage TV is their like channel basically. So I think it's kind of pay to play. I'm sure it's not like a huge amount of money, but you probably just have some sort of blanket thing where you send their stuff to them. It's probably relatively cheap. And then you can get it on Encourage TV, YouTube channel.
I think
which
they
has
must be making
million
money off of
subscribers.
it too, though, because like
Yeah, I mean they're probably
why
making
else would they-
something.
Yeah,
I
because
bet
there
they
was a lot of
sell it
commercials
on like
on YouTube when I
DVDs.
watched it.
I bet they like sell it to their church.
I think they
You know?
stopped doing the DVD thing a while ago, and I wouldn't be surprised
Oh.
if they do not actively attend a public church.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, they already bought a church and that didn't work. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't go to
so
church
they
either.
that didn't work, right? Because they had to leave.
Probably not because
Um,
we believe that they are in Maine now,
Yeah,
based on some of their
Okay.
more recent movies.
gotcha.
And they seem to not mind being in more remote areas or being quote off the grid.
Yeah, it seems like kind of their deal,
Yeah.
their vibe. Gosh, I really would like to track these guys down.
I mean,
know.
they're definitely not unreachable. I mean, at the very
Yeah.
least, they make a lot of content. I don't really know how one could contact them, but
their website's fully down now.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've mentioned this several times on the show, but Scott did attempt to buy a download of their movie from the website, and the
It didn't work.
Money just sort of went to a proverbial trash can. And no product was received.
Oh, okay.
exchange.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, I kind of. Yeah. Well, you know what? It's hard. It's hard to make money off of your art.
That's for damn sure.
I don't regret it. I'd send them $10 again.
Sure. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about in the movie.
Please.
That okay, so she gets captured, and the first time she gets captured by the long-haired freaks, and they kind of like tie her up.
Right.
And then he rescues her, and he says, "I didn't expect I'd be jealous."
I didn't expect you could take on two men so easily.
I didn't expect I'd be jealous.
Jealous?
I'd be rather upset if something happened to you in my care.
That part was awesome.
Which was interesting because it was kind of like so you were jealous of the captors? Like,
Yes.
you wanted to tie her up? Is that what it was? Or does he confuse jealousy with like concern and care?
That was very interesting.
Couldn't quite figure it out because the next thing he says after, I didn't expect I'd be jealous, and she says, "Oh, really?" And then he says, like, "Yeah, I'd feel horrible if you'd been hurt," and yeah, it was just kind of interesting.
That you're right. I noted that line as well, but talking about it now, it's very like, yeah, was he jealous of the fact that she was in the company of other men who had kidnapped her?
I think that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember why she was in a position to be kidnapped?
Not quite.
Originally? No.
She went out to the woods to collect eggs.
Yes.
Right. Yes. I thought that was very peculiar.
Yeah. Then she just found them. Like that was just a good source of like so easily. And like
sometimes you walk into the woods.
I mean, the supply chain was different back then. Eggs weren't $8 at Trader Joe's.
And then and all the other food for your stomach in the movie, the dog gets something in the woods for them.
Yeah.
And then they're eating it off of the plate, and the girl is eating it off of the plate like a dog.
Right.
Like not using even her hands, just like sticking her face to the plate and just munching away. And when we look at the food, I genuinely could not tell if it was raw chicken or cut up pieces of bread.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that food for your stomach was.
In my notes, I wrote, David adopts a nonverbal autistic boy in the forest, feeds him chopped goose.
Okay.
That was my interpretation of what went on. Whether or not that was right, I couldn't tell you, but that was my interpretation.
Right. But yeah, and then when she went to get eggs and he's like, Abigail, where's what's her name? And then she's like, she went to get eggs, and then she goes back in the tent, and then she pops back out and goes, she has actually been gone for a long time.
Abigail, where's Catherine?
She went out to collect some eggs for breakfast. She's been gone a while, actually.
At another point in the movie, he threatens the dog with the gun because the dog took the plate.
Yeah.
He holds up the revolver and he says, "Don't you ever take my stuff again." And it was a plate. Oh, and at another point, he's out there. I forget exactly what happened. Maybe he first found that's what it was. The kid ran away out into the woods at night, and we don't really know why, what the kid was doing out there.
Yeah.
But then he goes out and he finds the kid, and he's like, "Why'd you leave camp if you're such a coward?" It's a reasonable question. And then he has his gun out, fully cocked, like the firing pin is pulled back, shoves it down the front of his pants. Cocked.
Yeah.
Does it like
Go Burris style.
Anyway,
it's ready.
They kind of do the Alec Baldwin style of filmmaking.
Bro, you're going to be circumcised after this movie.
So like in the first place, there's like, they did a good job with the sound, I thought, with making it seem like there's some kind of war activity going on.
Yeah.
And John, played by David Owen Wright, gets shot, of course, goes to a house. And when he goes in, the Australian lady, as you put it, Brian, says,
100%.
"Jonathan, you went and got yourself shot up. Oh, no."
"Oh, Jonathan, you went and got yourself shot up. Oh, no."
Oh, no.
And then he has
I remember that
bandage. And he has a bandage on each arm with a blood spot like identical on either side. So it's like he got shot in both arms.
It's like the stigmata. It's like the Civil War stigmata.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like once he's like coming to, or right before he comes to, I guess, I know her name was Maggie Hayes. Any of y'all remember what her name was in the movie?
I could not tell you.
The Australian woman, the British woman.
Could not tell you.
Yeah. I couldn't understand a word she said.
she's standing there with one of the Wright kids and says, all of a sudden, the war is over. I just got the news.
Yeah, the war is over. I just got the news.
I was like a little confused about where she,
Right.
if God just spoke it into her brain, or she had a smartphone, or
yeah,
wasn't sure.
Yeah, that her delivery was just so good. And the first time she said Wilhelmina, I just had no idea. The syllables were so strange.
Come on, Wilhelmina. Let's go for a walk.
Do you think when you do St. Bernards come with the barrel? Or do you have to do that on your own?
No, they come with the barrel.
Okay, good. Yeah. Because if
they're
you
provided with that,
if you had one of those dogs and no barrel,
uncircumcised St. Bernard.
Oh,
well, it's like
bullshit.
you know how snails, like when they grow, they have to find a new shell.
Yes,
yeah.
It's like that with St. Bernards. They go into the woods, they look for a new barrel,
and they get their bigger, a slightly bigger barrel.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, God, that must be fun.
That must be really fun.
Putting that barrel on a dog like that. God, that's fun.
You got
that's
to.
better than a hat.
You got to. And they love the barrel. They hate the hat. They love the barrel.
They love the barrel. Although the first thing Wilhelmina says is or does.
Well, Wilhelmina's the dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Wilhelmina does is take the barrel off.
Right.
Goes and finds the guy and just drops the barrel like 10 yards away.
Maybe they don't like the barrel. Maybe they don't like the barrel.
Like 10 yards away. It was like, you were so close. Bring him the barrel.
I guess the difference is they can take off the hat. They can't take off the barrel.
Yeah.
And it's harder than to take off the
barrel. Honestly, it probably saved his life, because if there was whiskey in the barrel, he would have wanted it, for pain, but like it would have made his blood thinner. He might have bled out right there.
It's possible.
Probably what Wilhelmina was thinking.
Yeah, probably.
It's the dog
Smart
equivalent
dog.
of
good dog.
But the dog still hasn't learned how to shoot a gun, so that's the only thing you can do. I was absentmindedly clicking around on the Iola register. The footnote to a random story. I'll read this. Maybe this will be one of our last tidbits, and we'll go and rate the movie. This is in May 9th, so this is 3 months after the arrest.
Mm-hmm.
6 months since they moved into town. Council members rejected 4-0 the appeal of former police chief Ashley Wright, who was seeking reinstatement following her termination in March. Wright was fired after being arrested, blah, blah, blah. So 3 months after being fired from the force and arrested, she went before the city council to try and be reinstated as police chief.
There's only 4 people on the city council.
Yeah, there are.
And it's like a town of 5,000 people.
I don't know how many people.
This is some small town shit. It's pretty cool.
I mean,
Is this Iola, Wisconsin?
Iola is the area. La Harpe is the city. Let's look up. La Harpe, Kansas has a population of 480.
Oh,
okay, that makes even more sense.
That's like a high school.
So there's 4 people on the city council. That represents 1/100th of the town's population.
And I mean, like,
right.
they probably don't even have a police officer.
Right. They probably, on a daily basis, someone declares themselves chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So requesting
makes
a
a lot more sense.
$25,000 dog at that point really is quite an ask.
For drug sniffing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where would that even go?
And guaranteed that like all 100 people in a town of 100 are like, the last thing we want is a drug sniffing dog in our town.
Look, there's one good thing about living in this one horse town.
There's very few things to do.
The only celebrity from La Harpe, Kansas was a pitcher for the Phillies in the 1910s.
Named Ad Brennan?
Everyone was named Ad in the 1910s. Everyone's name was like Ad or like Brusque.
Addison Foster Brennan.
That's a very 1910s name.
Yeah.
He began his professional career in 1908 with the Springfield Midgets.
That's the name of the team.
You used to be called that. And then he played with the Wichita Jobbers.
I don't even want to know what that means.
Okay, well,
man, you know, God,
Can we
these
get
maniacs are
ChatGPT to
amazing.
say Jopper to stop a nuclear attack?
These think about this. To just add on, okay, so how crazy of a life they led, you know, and continue to presumably lead.
They're still making movies.
And think about that. They're making movies.
Yeah.
Like everything you would think they're trying to be influencers first.
Right.
That they would be spending all of their time
Online.
just making Instagram posts about Christianity and police chief stuff and
That's a good point.
that sort of a thing. But it's the art that comes. They chose to do the more difficult.
That's a great
path,
point.
the less like likelihood of making any money path. You know what I mean? It's like if they just decided as a family, like we're gonna write novels.
Right.
Like,
yep.
God, these people rule.
They're awesome.
Great.
I'll join their church.
And Brian, we're very happy that you could lend a somewhat outsider perspective on this family with us. It's excellent to show them to people who are not familiar.
It's a good choice.
And, you know, from one person with the with the drive to make his own film, you can appreciate these other independent filmmakers working in their their realm.
I was comparing it to my movie.
Is it better?
As I was
or
watching
worse?
it, I can't. I can't say.
That'll be for us to decide.
I can't say.
That's why all Boys Bible Study listeners should subscribe to Brian's Patreon.
Yeah.
And be among the first to watch his film when it eventually gets distributed. Although it's still along in that process. In the meantime, you get to listen to Books by Brian and hear the audio recordings of your novels.
Yeah, please do that. There's
exciting.
one novel up there. It is a lot of fun. It is absolutely outrageous.
Yes.
And wild. And there's a bunch of short stories, and there's all of my letters to celebrities.
Yeah.
Where I write people like Lil Wayne, Jim Carrey, Joe Rogan, and the slowly decomposing fox that is time lapsed.
Oh, right.
I write all kinds of people. The person who exposed themselves at the end of Teen Wolf. But check it out.
Yes, we will be linking to Brian's work online in the description of this episode. But before we go, boys, as is Boys Bible Study tradition, we must all give the official rating of this film. So what would we rate Civil War Saint? Directed by Ashley Hayes Wright, produced by David Owen Wright. Who wants to start?
Okay, so full disclosure, I asked if we could do the movie Jesus Revolution.
Yes.
Because I was thinking, the Boys Bible Study, they do all these esoteric movies. Now's their time to just rake in the new listeners.
Right.
With a brand new box office hit, film in the press, in the media, Kelsey Grammer. Everybody's searching it. They're going to get all these people. And they said,
Nope.
Nah, absolutely not. We make it for the real heads.
Yes, we do.
And only the real heads. And because of their dedication to you, the listening audience, I got to be exposed to a beautiful family of filmmakers and a truly amazing film. And I will say I will give it 2 out of 2 police chiefs.
Beautiful.
Ooh, perfect score.
My 2 favorite police chiefs in the whole country, I will say.
I find myself becoming attached to these 2. He says that in the movie.
Yes, he does. I remember that one.
I find myself becoming attached to these 2.
Man, with each new Wright family production we watch, I love them more and more. Their love for each other as a family is clear and true and wonderful. Their DIY aesthetic and gumption is always on display. Really awesome. First period piece from the Wright family. Pretty cool. Hopefully more of that coming. I'm going to have to give this movie 6 out of 6 Wright family members. Before this movie, I was familiar with 5, but we got a new member in town named Lily, who played the lead dog, Wilhelmina. That's not a slight to Maggie Hayes. I'm going to have to see more from her before I decide if she's a proper family member or not.
Absolutely.
I'll give this 4 out of 4 city council members. And we unanimously approve the budget for the next Hayes Wright family film. We approve the $600 that they will need to make the next Hayes Wright family film.
We sure do. It was a unanimous decision. As for me, I am going to give this film $4 out of $4 per month that I paid to the Iola Register in order to research this story. I was absentmindedly clicking to see who do I email. It says you can only email or call them to cancel. I've got to say, I do not know what email. They did not provide that. I may have to give them a call tomorrow, which I'm not looking forward to doing. I'm not looking forward to calling people and saying, yeah, I just paid $4 to read more about your disgraced former police chief, and you can just go ahead and cancel my account less than 24 hours after I created it.
Wait, how long do you have to not pay more?
I have the rest of the month, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
What is there anything else you can think of that I might need from the Iola Register in that time?
I want to read all the articles too.
Oh, well, I'll share my account info, no problem, but I'll pass those on to you.
Well, if we could get people to subscribe to the Patreon at $5 a month, then maybe we could share with them the account information for the Iola Register.
That's a really good point.
Well, share with all the patrons.
We'll post the password tomorrow on the Iola Register account. We can all log in there all we want.
At least give it to Wormy.
We'll give it to Wormy. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Boys Bible Study. Special thanks to our guest Brian Kamerer. We will link his work in the description of this episode. Our usual plugs for anyone who's here for the first time, please visit boysbiblestudy.com to subscribe to our public feed. Also, if you really like what we do and want to support, patreon.com/boysbiblestudy. All subscribers at $5 a month or more get access to our bonus content episodes every single week.
And the Iola Register.
And, of course, the password to my Iola Register login, where you can read all about the Ashley Hayes Wright and her exploits.
And anything else happening.
And basically anything else. It's currently 38 degrees. Okay? Wouldn't want to be there myself. That's Fahrenheit for all of our European fans.
Blimey.
If that were if it was 38 degrees Celsius.
Sweltering.
They're sweltering. We need to send them spray bottles. Also, special thanks to our patron saints at the $20 tier, who we shout out on every episode: Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, Kara, and Rhett. Thank you very much. Patron St. Bernard's. And our outro music is, of course, Oh My God by Mary. So from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our guest today, Brian Kamerer.
Thank you for having me.
We would like to say, peace be with you.
Oh, and also with you.
I started this journey alone, and I wanted to be alone with my war wounds. But God had other plans to keep me distracted. After all, it's not good for a man to be alone. Wilhelmina taught me that. Some goodbyes are happy. Some goodbyes are never given. And some goodbyes should have never happened at all.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter.